Good evening, Stuttgart Military Community. My name is Colonel Jason Kinder, your Garrison Commander, and I appreciate you joining us tonight for this COVID live stream town hall. So first of all, I am joined by two leaders whose efforts have kept the things that are critical to you afloat. I've got AAFES General Manager Mike Ryan and Mr. Scott Harmon, the Store Director at Commissary.
Good evening.
And so also online, ready to answer your questions, and probably much better at it than I am. We've got all of the experts from across the Garrison staff. There's teachers out there. There's mental health professionals, people that are watching this, prepared to provide expertise and answer your questions, especially for some of those that we don't get to right away. So we've allotted about 45 minutes for tonight. I'm going to cover up front some topics based upon the questions you've already asked. A lot of the emails and into the Garrison Assistance Team inbox, some of the ICE comments, all the things that over the last couple of days as you've been watching us execute this most recent initiative, the red, white, and blue group concept. And then we'll go to your questions. But before, I do want to offer some thanks. So first of all, we've had some incredible help from AFRICOM out at our Kelly CMR. We were down to 2 postal workers, and had they not put forward some strong backs and some expertise, I don't know that we would have been able to keep that mailroom open. Our postal employees across the board have created a whole nother day of work. I asked them to keep it within 3, and so they added on additional hours to create a 4th day, although it's still spread out over 3. The hotel staff at Panzer, and then all the additional people that have joined their ranks to keep the doors open, keep that service running for the 100+ families that we have still in our hotel. And then our food service heroes at the food courts, at the Galaxy Bowling Center, the food trucks. I know how many across the community depend on them day in and day out. Not everybody has a kitchen. And then our installation coordinators, our vectors technicians, our roads and grounds people, they continue to churn away and make sure that the things that we depend on, the things we take for granted, are in place. And then I also want to offer a special shout out to our special operators here next door to the Garrison headquarters. Whether it's an SF medic down there doing screening at the clinic, or the staff, the officers and NCOs that have augmented our emergency operations center. Without a doubt, we couldn't do today what we are doing without that augmentation. And so first, I do want to start with a COVID update. Since our first positive case on the 14th of March, we've seen 103 cases in this community. Because of your actions and the actions of organizations across the footprint, as of today, over 50% of those cases have recovered and been released to return to work. Along the same lines, less than 3% of our community is in some sort of restriction of movement, self-isolation, self-quarantine. And that number, presuming we remain on track, will continue to get smaller. So that's a fantastic update. That's some progress that I hope that we continue to maintain. But with that news, comes a threat. And I know I talked about it at the last town hall focused on resiliency, but that's complacency. And it's that very complacency that will cause people to resist washing hands. That'll cause people to go within that 6 feet that we know we need to keep in order to keep the virus at bay. It will beg us to remove the screeners at the front gate or at the entrance to critical services. And it'll lead and request the relaxation of all the things we've put in place, whether it's a head count standard that we have at the PX, the Commissary, the Express, any place that's small that we gather as a community, or the red, white, and blue concept itself, designed to limit our exposure, and when we do have exposure, allow it to be contained to a very small segment of the population. And so, kind of begs the next question: how long are we going to be doing this? My initial advice is to settle in. I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get to where this virus doesn't dictate how we live and operate each day. We may never see that day. I think it's because we're disciplined in how we work, how we shop, and the fact that we are limiting our contact outside of our homes. The reason we had the good news, the reason we have turned what was a spike up into a downturn when it comes to the number of cases that are showing up and the number of people that are coming, that are recovering and back out among us. From my perspective, we've got to get our staffing back up to the level where a positive test doesn't mean we have to shut the doors. And I know the guys I'm here with tonight, they're focused on that as well. We're coming at that staffing problem from two directions. Obviously, we've got to give some time for people to get well, but we're hiring. I know a lot of you have submitted applications on the jobs button. That's exactly the kind of effort that we need in order to address this problem. You know, I put together a red, white, and blue concept that looks at the next 2 months. I'm also looking for opportunities as to how we add additional things into that. Right now, it's focused almost entirely on groceries, you know, the essentials at the PX and how we get our mail. But, you know, as an example, my truck just reminded me that I need an oil change. I know we need to change tires. You know, we have winter tires on our car. This week, we opened up dry cleaning just for pickup, but the reality is we probably should figure out how we open that up regularly. When do we open up our arts and crafts shop? We just put out guidance today talking about face masks, and I have someplace on the installation where you can buy the materials that may make that possible. So, back to how long? Short answer is I don't know. All I do know is that it's COVID day until it's not. But I'm determined that we will set the conditions for this fight, and we will fight on our terms. So I think at this point, take a quick pause. For those of you that have the George Constanza bingo card, you should be yelling bingo. Okay, back to the recent guidance we got from CDC, the President, and the Secretary of Defense on cloth facial coverings. So it comes back to the fact that we continue to learn about the virus every day. And specifically, we're trying to figure out exactly how much spreading occurs by those that aren't experiencing any symptoms at all. You know, we did some asymptomatic testing, and we found people within our community that had no symptoms but tested positive for the virus. And many of them to this day have felt zero symptoms. And so it's in that mind that this guidance has evolved. And I will tell you up front that it's voluntary. I am not directing anything. It's designed to protect you from others and others from you, because you may not know that you have it. It also acknowledges that a lot of our public spaces, no matter how much deference you give to somebody else that's approaching you, you still are going to get within 6 feet of separation. So I can tell you that when I go into our public spaces, I'm going to wear something over my face. Maybe for me, it may be for somebody that comes near me. The simple answer is I don't know. So I'm going to take additional precautions. The guidance is deliberately focused on homemade because we don't want to create a rush on those critical pieces of protective gear that our medical professionals need and our first responders need. And so I'm going to ask you to be very deliberate about how you go about acquiring a mask. I do want to highlight that they shouldn't be made out of uniforms. This uniform right here as an example, because many of them are treated for insects and they're treated to prevent wrinkling. And so therefore, they're not designed to be breathed through. Don't want to create a future health problem in order to address one that we're seeing today. There may come a time when it goes from being voluntary to being directive. That may happen very quickly. Again, we're learning about this virus each and every day. I will attempt to give you as much warning as possible because I know the last thing that you want to do is to show up and get turned away at a door because you didn't get word that it was now required in order to go into the commissary or into the food court or into the mailroom. So I'm going to do my best to be able to anticipate when that guidance may come down and let the community know. I know there's lots of crafty people out there, lots of people that are asking how they can make masks and give them to those that need them. And we do have quite a few people that would love to have a mask made by somebody out there. The Red Cross is looking at ways that they can kind of be the central the central collection point and distribution of that. Still don't have all the details yet, but in anticipation of them getting the approval to do that for our community, they've offered a little bit of guidance, and I'm going to go through it here. First of all, anything that you choose to make a mask out of for donation, first of all, wash it before you begin sewing. Wash your hands before you begin making the mask. Follow the instructions in phase 2 and phase 3 of the CDC approved method for making a cloth face mask. That's a link you should have seen today with the announcement with the guidance. There's lots of access to that out there. All you have to do is Google CDC and face mask. It's also on the app. There's a button called face masks. We tried to keep it pretty clear as to where you should go. So if you're going to donate, you'll seal the mask in a Ziploc bag. If you're going to use a donated mask, it's recommended that once you get it, you wash it. Do that before you put it on your face. And so in terms of how we're going to do the donations, we'll try and find a place to put donation boxes, probably in front of our critical services, the PX, the commissaries, the Red Cross, ACS building. I'm going to ask that if you want to donate something, follow the instructions above. It's got to be in accordance with the CDC guidance, and loose masks aren't helpful. Multiple masks in the same bag, again, aren't helpful. The intent is not to have a whole bunch of people that are volunteers handling the mask that you ensured was clean when you put it inside of a Ziploc bag. So, I think it's appropriate that I thank the community for their patience as we implemented this red, white, and blue concept. I told you from the beginning that we were going to be learning our way through it, and that there was going to be some inconveniences as a result. It has evolved almost every day, and that's with your feedback, with some constructive criticism, and I know, like, out of the gates there was some concerns as people found out they were in one group or another and looked at the days available to them. Whether it's a weekday or a weekend day. So we've with the transition from this cycle to the next, we've added an additional closed day, which better distributes the weekend and weekdays. From my perspective, every day is COVID day, so it didn't matter, but that's not the perspective that all of you held. So we made that adjustment. I'm going to go into the couple of the other things we've done with respect to those critical services. And of course, I've got some gentlemen here that'll correct me if I stray too far. So first of all, with the exchange, the main store. So your concerns about lines and queuing have led to separate entrances for the main store and the food court. So it doesn't prevent you from using both if you choose, but want to make sure that any lines that form outside, because we will have a head count mechanism to ensure that we don't stack up on top of each other inside the main exchange. That gets into the cart basket head count. So that's designed to control the number of people inside. In some of our smaller facilities, it's based upon a doctor saying, hey, you can only have X number of people inside this building. And some of the others, like the patch commissary as an example, where you've got that narrow hallway that connects the other shopping area to where the cash registers are. Or how we've been queuing inside of the express, or inside of the main exchange, inside the aisles where people were trying to shop. Those are things that we have looked for, and the head count and the baskets are designed to, number one, if you're pushing a cart, that gives you your 6 foot of social distancing, your physical distancing from the person in front of you. So within the PX, we've rerouted and formed a single checkout line. So you don't have 3 or 4 lines running through the aisles where you're trying to get soap, where you're trying to get shampoo, toothpaste, all those things that were potentially blocked as I stood in those lines over the weekend. As staff are released back to work, AAFES is looking to reopen the RB furniture store. Perhaps just one day initially, maybe more after that, but the intent is to allow the members of that community to go there to get water and other beverages. As staff are released back to work, the exchange is looking to figure out how we can do some sort of order online, curbside pickup. The intent of that would be for somebody that's outside of the red, white, and blue cycle where you could come into the store. And so again, I know that there's some concerns over that. And so AAFES has also increased their orders and stockage of some of the essential items within the gas stations, within the expresses, so that you can go and get the things that your family consumes fast, whether it's bread, eggs, milk. Now I understand that there may be more demand. We'll continue to learn through that and figure out how we can meet that demand. So for the commissaries, with the red, white, and blue concept, we've added weekend hours at Panzer and Kelly, places we've never had weekend hours before. So a huge leap forward from that perspective, and I kind of chuckled as I saw the complaints about the long lines on a weekend at the Kelly and the Panzer. We've added the first hour of shopping to high-risk shoppers, and I appreciate members of the community that don't fall into the high-risk category, allowing other members of the community to go first. The store is cleanest at that time, less of a chance of some sort of surface contact, and that's what we want to do for those families that are doing their most to protect high-risk members of our community. Commissary has already implemented concierge shopping, which is where a volunteer can go and shop for someone else, someone that's isolated, somebody that's quarantined, and when they get to the checkout, a phone call between the person that you're shopping for and the cashier completes the purchase. And we're trying to look and see how this may roll into some sort of curbside service. I think with volunteers, we may be able to make that possible. Again, giving those that are outside of their red, white, and blue cycle another opportunity to get some of those essential items, something you forgot, need for a birthday cake, those kind of things that are critical to you and your family. Community mailrooms. I know how touchy of a subject this has been. We restricted access just at the moment that all of the trucks full of your packages started to arrive, because I had asked you to stay at home and expose yourself and your family less to the outside world. And so I realize I'm messing with packages, not just for our service members and our civilians, but even more precariously for our spouses. I know the moment that you risk delay, that puts you very, very close to the sun. Our postmaster says the most consistent items that people are picking up are video game controllers and diapers. So very consistent with a stay at home as much as possible guideline. So once we identified that spike in online purchases, we effectively added an additional day. Sure, it wasn't an additional day, but the additional hours were stacked on top of the hours that we had during the 3 days it's open. And that's made a difference. It's made a difference in the back as we tried to deal with the onslaught of packages. And this weekend, and I think we will have ironed out the kinks pretty soon, we've implemented a pilot program with 2 units where they will come and pick up the packages for their members of their organizations and deliver them. Much like what is done overseas, much like what's done on a Navy ship, much like what's done in a basic training, for any of the services. Those are processes that we in the military are familiar with, and this may create the opportunity for somebody to get package mail, every 3 or 4 days rather than waiting 2 weeks. I know that can be a problem, especially if you're waiting on something critical and you don't control when that package arrives or does not arrive. We're also looking at other ways that we can expand into some sort of satellite location, where the space problem that we have is not as much of a problem. The small area behind the counter, our health officials say that we should only have 2 or 3 people back there, not the 12 that are required to service the needs of the community when we have a spike in mail and packages. Looks just like Christmas back there. And so, talked about the other services. First of all, I have to pace off of our German partners. If they keep something closed, then we have to be very deliberate about how we open. We have to be nested with them. That's part of the agreement we have with our host nation. We're going to look to see when we can open up dry cleaning permanently, perhaps even sewing and alterations. I realize there's going to be needs for that. We're going to try and figure out how to do oil changes, tire changes, perhaps even get the auto skills finally open. I know that's a promise I've made several months back. It has been delayed because of COVID. But I'm looking to figure out how we do that soon. And then the last piece is how do we leverage the red, white, and blue cycle to go back to 24-hour fitness, get some access inside of our gyms, figure out how we do that in a manner that's social distancing and provides the materials, or you bring the materials that allow you to clean machines before you get on them and after you get off them. Those are the things that we're looking at. Again, I don't know when we're going to do that, and the reality is our host nation partners still have those facilities off limits. Enforcement. That's probably the most consistent question that I've received this week is, what do we do about the people that aren't going to follow the rules? The good news is the vast majority are willing to comply. You know, I walked through the commissary last night as one of many people wearing a uniform, looking at a shopping list on a phone, taking pictures of items, confirming that I was about to buy the right thing, and asking, you know, hey, which bread? There's 5 different kinds of bread. I know that slows shopping down. I'm going to apologize because I'm part of slowing it down, and I realize there's others doing the same. But in terms of minimizing the exposure of your family to what's outside, that's a prudent measure. So most people are complying. There's always exceptions. There have already been 2 service members that have violated General Order 1 Alpha. They are being dealt with through the military justice system. Access to AAFES and the commissary are a privilege, even in these days. And so that's why I've asked AAFES and DeCA to implement an ID card procedure. I want you to show the screeners an ID card. That way I know, first of all, that you should have access. Second of all, we have a name so that if I have any resistance at all, that screener can give me a sworn statement describing what happened. I've heard 4 or 5 horror stories that are baffling to me. And so I've asked them, as part of that duty that they're performing, and it is duty, to be professional in the execution of that duty. I see no reason why the interaction from the community with them should not be the same. And so if you refuse to wash your hands, and let me be clear, I'm okay with you using hand sanitizer that you brought standing next to the hand washing station. Completely okay. But if you refuse to clean your hands before you go into one of our facilities, then I'm going to find a way to solve that problem for you. If you are resisting the head count methods that are designed to help that one individual control 50 or 60 people inside of a store, because I don't want to put a squad of service members to control our access. I shouldn't have to do that. Then that's a privilege I'm looking to suspend. And if you're resistant and frustrated with screeners asking you questions, whether it's at the gate or whether it's at the entrance to a critical service, and you don't want to answer those questions, again, I'll have your name and I can solve that frustration for you. I know a lot of people think it's silly. We all know the questions. We've heard them all 100 times. Well, it's interesting how many people don't know the questions. And just that one reminder may be the difference between, hey, I do feel bad. You know, I've asked you to do self-assessments, but there are some people that thought has not crossed their mind until somebody's deliberately trying to get them to think about it. And that's what that's for. With asymptomatic positives, I don't need somebody standing there with a thermometer. I need someone there to ask a question that prompts us, this community, to do the right thing, to not expose coworkers, to not expose other people in our public spaces to them if they might be sick. And so that's going to continue. So the future, you know, again, I don't know how long we're going to be doing this. We've already begun planning to see what this looks like 30 days, 60 days, 90, 4 months from now. We're working to tailor the services that you need, and we're working on, when the stop move guidance is lifted, how we deal with the surge of PCS in and out that will inevitably follow. We're going to be looking, for feedback from the community. We're going to be looking for your assistance, because there's some things that we're going to try to do in advance to make that process as quick as possible. So I don't know what things will look like in 30 days. I don't know what they'll look like 4 months from now. I know they will be different. The days of us getting everybody together in one big room and putting out information, they're over. So we're trying to figure out how to get in your hands the information that's necessary. So with that in mind, I'll say continue to use the app. Let us know what you want to see there so that it's a quick reference for you. It is sort of the convergence point for all things Garrison, all things COVID, anything that you want to know. I want to be able to put that in your hand and find 3 or 4 different ways for you to get that information depending on how your brain works. And so just in the last week, we've updated the hours on the shopping groups button. A volunteer button has been added. A jobs button that has generated applications across the footprint. A resiliency button to describe how we are now delivering a lot of those services differently, but still delivering them. And then as of today, the mask button. So that's where you're going to find the references on what do you need to do, what's the current guidance, how do I make a mask. Those are the kind of things that we're putting hopefully right at your fingertips. So if you don't have the app, please download the app. Okay, I know I tried to answer a lot of questions. There's a lot I'm sure that have rolled in. But before we get to your questions, I wanted to ask Mr. Ryan and Mr. Harmon what they are seeing and hearing from their unique perspective, from their service. And I want them to be able to share that with the community. So, Mike?
Good evening. First of all, I want to tell you guys that it's an honor for the exchange to be able to serve those who serve. And second and most important, I want to give a shout out to not only my team, but all the services teams that are on the front lines, that are taking care of those that serve each and every day. So again, I want to thank the DeCA partners, I want to thank the FMWR partners, everyone that's on the front lines each and every day, taking care of our community, because it's very important that we do this, and we get to do this together, and we fight through this together. Third, actually, I want to remind you that the exchange is committed to assuring the safety and the health, not only of our customers, but also of our associates. You should have seen this throughout our facilities in the Stuttgart Garrison. We have put in preventive measures in our facilities, such as the mind the meter stickers on the floor, communicating to our customers that social distancing is an important thing, one of the most important things you can do while you're shopping our facilities, along with making sure that you wash your hands as you come into those facilities and as you exit those facilities. My associates are continuously doing disinfectant cleaning, pin pads, counters, you name it. They are cleaning more than they ever have before. It's not that we haven't done it before, we just intensified it during this current situation that we're in. As the Colonel mentioned, there will be some changes. Someone once told me that if you can count on anything in life, it's that change will happen. So this is a very fluid situation, and the exchange is in unknown territory right now, to tell you the truth. So we are learning as we go through this, just as you're learning going through this, on what needs to be done in order to assure the safety and the health of our community. Starting Friday, that's when we'll start having the one entrance and one exit at the Panzer Mall. Again, we're trying to create the social distancing throughout the community. We will have signage up, we'll get the messaging out on Facebook. We will do our best to communicate the changes that are going on an everyday basis. We will also have limits to who can come into the PX. That will start on Friday too. Please remember that tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, we are closed, so we can do restocking and so that we can do some additional cleaning throughout the facility. But when we open it on Friday, these new procedures will be in place. Once again, there'll be a separate entrance and exit. There'll be a customer limit into the store, and there will be a queuing line, something we have not done before. So please be patient with my staff as you enter these facilities and as you visit them. And recognize that my staff, the majority of them that are working, are either connected to the military family because they are dependent spouses, or they grew up in a military family. So they are experiencing the same thing that much of you are experiencing out there when it comes to this virus. And specifically, I want to mention that we are down in staffing, so it is a challenge for them. But I do appreciate them for coming in every day and being on those front lines and taking care of the community that serves. So I will turn this over to Mr. Hurt from DeCA.
Harmon.
Mr. Harmon. Sorry, I apologize for that.
Good evening. I'm proud to be here tonight to serve this Stuttgart community and the DeCA family, because the DeCA family is also the military family. All the measures and procedures that we have in place are designed for one thing and one thing only. Let's save the lives. Let's keep everyone healthy and keep this a strong, vibrant, healthy community. That's our first focus. A big shout out to all of our workers and volunteers, the military folks that are helping us to keep these shelves stocked. We're going through hoops to get extra product into the stores, and also we're switching people from Kelly to Robinson to Panzer and Patch to keep the operations going, and moving product from each store if necessary. Maintaining a positive, healthy lifestyle in these critical times is very challenging. But the chain of command here is doing a great job because what we have is totally unexperienced. After going through 9/11, it was like, yeah, I can take anything. But this is definitely for real. A lot of the folks that I know off base or on base, we have family in some of these states that have been really affected. So it's 100% real, and I am 100% in support of the chain of command and these rules because we have to do what we need to do. Okay. Last but not least, all of our orders have been increased to accommodate the increased shopping. A lot of our stores are up 20, 30, 40, even 200% sometimes, depending on which days it is. So the volume of product is almost unprecedented that's coming out of our distribution centers. Your producers and manufacturers, they don't have it easy in the States either. A lot of stores have been running out of some items. So what we've done is the orders that are increased are on the water. It's getting into country, but we have so many countries and so many commissaries we have to split up, but we are getting our share. And one thing I talked to Sergeant Major Tia was Club Pack and Sam's Club type products. Buy the bulk packages of toilet paper or water or whatever. Those do help out so we don't have to stock the little things, but we will keep stocking everything that we have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen. So a couple questions came in earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into a couple of those. So first one, this kind of falls into the cloth face coverings category. So Julian asked, where DoD policy and host nation policy differ, what takes precedent on the installation? As an example, will the contracted German construction workers, delivery truck drivers for Deutsche Post, etc., will they require a mask to get on post if their government hasn't told them they need one? So first of all, in most cases, our NATO Status of Forces Agreement require us to comply with the host nation requirements. Article 54 specifically says that we must follow the rules when it comes to an infectious disease. I will say that as the installation commander, I can enforce stricter measures than those that are occurring outside the installation. However, when it comes to face masks, I don't know that I will prevent the garbage truck guy from coming on because he doesn't have a face mask. If he doesn't interact with the community, again, the intent of that guidance that we've implemented is to protect yourself and protect others from you. If there's no concern with being able to maintain social distancing based upon what they're contracted to do, what they're coming on the installation to do, then I don't see a reason to enforce a requirement on them if that means we lose a critical service as a result. Nobody wants to see the garbage piling up in the streets. Nobody wants to prevent mail from coming in. Mail, good segue. This gets into services and access. So this is Megan's question. Are our legal rights to receive mail being violated on a federal level by only allowing us to pick up our mail and packages on our designated color day? So, Megan, I have lots of lawyers that help protect me from myself. So, 39 U.S. Code 101A codifies my obligation as the government to operate mail for the community. However, it doesn't specify how often I need to provide access. And so because neither that U.S. code or the Army and Europe regulation that I'm also governed by doesn't specify that I need to do it or provide access every day, I took a hard look at whether or not I was going to be able to provide mail at all. Once we went below the 50% mark in staffing, I was concerned that I was going to have to shutter mail rooms for 14 days. And so to not do that, we went with the red, white, and blue cycle, where not only did you have limited access to your mail, but I'm able to protect the staff from the community, protect the staff from each other because they may be bringing the virus from home. The reality is I needed to create time and space so that the staff could recover. We could add additional staff. But the alternative from my perspective, and the next phone call could have been something that closed the Patch mailroom or the Kelly mailroom. That call may still come, but at least we've put in some measures in place that I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I did as much as I could to avoid that. So yes, what we're doing right now with respect to mail is in accordance with the law. What we do with mail handlers, What we do with any satellite mail operations will be in accordance with the law. I want to make sure that we've done everything possible to mitigate any damage to package, any loss, anything that, all the links in that mail processing chain, the ones that I'm in control of, going to make sure that we do the most that we can to ensure that people get their mail. And I recognize that there may be some inconvenience associated with that, but it's a necessary inconvenience.
So, gentlemen, we have quite a few questions coming in on the live stream. A few of these will have to do with the PX and the commissary, and also with some policy. Beth asks, and quite a few people have asked, can people with high-risk family members use the high-risk hours?
So, Beth, I think that's probably best. The intent of the high-risk hours is for those that are supporting high risk to come in and shop for them. As much as possible, those members of our community that are high risk, I want them to stay home. I want layers of defense around them. So that's exactly what those high risk hours are designed for.
This one might be best answered by Mike. Kim asks, can we make it possible at the gas station for a member to move their car after getting gas, then go in and pay before additional shopping inside so there's no jams at the pumps?
Good question, Kim. Currently, our system is not set up for that. If a vehicle moves from one of the gas pumps, we are not able to track it once the person gets to the register. So I apologize for that, but the current practice is going to have to remain in place. Thank you for your question.
This next question would be for DeCA and the commissary. Both Allison and Ephedra ask, could baggers come back to work but be used instead as grocery concierge volunteers?
The bagger situation, they're not allowed back in the store just as of yet, but I see no reason why they cannot volunteer to be concierge.
Do the baggers work entirely for tips?
Yes.
Okay, so if they chose to volunteer, we'd be willing to accept that. But,
Yes.
So it may be an option. Okay, great.
Gentleman Lee asks, I haven't been able to purchase cleaning supplies. Are there any efforts being made to distribute these types of supplies across the community?
That's probably our increased orders are coming in. As we know, Clorox bleach and the Clorox wipes and everything is a tough one because the manufacturers are really having a hard time keeping up. Those supplies are pretty much needed at a very large quantities at your medical facilities. So we're still going to get some, but it's not going to be 50 or 100 cases. Most of the times we're getting 20 or 30 cases 3-4 times a week. We stock the shelves, we make a display. People are buying a lot heavier quantities, but I would expect in the next 4 to 6 weeks that we will be able to supply the demand, meet the demand for the community.
One of you want to talk about buy limits that we've implemented?
Okay, I can talk about it. The shopping limits on cleaning products and toilet paper or paper towels, we're asking, or pretty much toilet paper and the cleaning products. We are asking that each family buy one, so that will be enough to spread out throughout the community, and most families will have at least one container, be able to purchase one container during the week or during their shopping cycles. Thank you.
And gentlemen, this might be for either the PX or the commissary. Monet asks, is making aisles one way being considered?
I'll take that. Yes, so the exchange is looking into that. That is a good practice for social distancing, and I know some of the other retailers in the States are currently making their aisles one way. So we had just brought that attention to our marketing people today, a matter of fact, and you might see that in the days to come, specifically in the Panzer main store. Good question, Monet. Thank you.
Another question for you, Mike. Why can't the booths outside the gas pumps be open?
So we took those, the center pad kiosks, we'll call them. We took those away about 7 years ago. I was still in Europe. I was at Spangdahlem. But we took it away. And currently the technology is no longer in those kiosks. So in order to get them up and running again, it would take a large investment and also a time, it would take a substantial time, a large amount of time to activate those kiosks again. So at this time, we are not looking at opening those up, but maybe this lasts longer. We'll see if we have the technology to do that. But right now, we're not looking at it. Thank you for your question.
Cox asks, can mission essential workers have sanitizing wipes reserved to keep their work environments clean?
I'll take that one. So, again, it comes back to what do we consider mission essential? Is the food service worker that's cooking chicken at Popeyes mission essential right now? Is the Intel analyst that's inside the skiff mission essential? I think that's probably what we're comfortable with thinking, but the reality is it's a struggle right now to determine with a very limited supply of Lysol wipes, Clorox wipes, those kind of things, where exactly we should place those. And every time we have that conversation, I can find at least 10 or 15 different reasons why putting a ration in place and choosing those that are more mission essential than others, creates all kinds of problems that we didn't anticipate. And so right now, we're going to do our best to spread as much as we can. And the reality is that may mean that everybody doesn't get what they want when they want. And I don't know that we're going to have a solution to that yet, just because those that make the wipes can't meet the demand. Everybody wants their own container of Lysol or Clorox wipes right now.
Staying in the vein of DECA and the PX, Sue asks, Mike, is there a status on stocking key items at the shoppettes? As we had discussed earlier, it'd be great to be able to grab milk, bread, eggs in between our shopping days.
Absolutely. So we've been working with both our direct suppliers, meaning our warehouse up in Grunstadt, and we've also been working with our suppliers out in the local economy to acquire additional product. Some of the items will come in frozen now, so if you don't find them on the regular shelf, such as bread, please look in our freezer section where the frozen meals are. It's a more product, it has a longer life expectancy when it's frozen. It has about a 30-day life cycle. It stays frozen, where if we sell it fresh, it's only about 7 days. So if you do not find the product in the days to come on the regular shelf, please check your frozen area in the expresses, and you'll most likely find it there. Thank you for your question.
Chris asks, will you scatter new cases of cleaning supplies between red, white, and blue groups so everyone has a chance?
So, all right.
Either way.
Okay, Chris, I'll take that one on, and I'm sure DECA's doing something similar. So I have told my staff that when we do get these high demand items in, where there's a purchase limit to them, we will divide that equally among the 3 shopping groups. So we will not put it all at once. We'll let the red, white, and blue days each have an opportunity to purchase those items. So we are controlling that as the merchandise comes in.
And will you put it all out on the first day of that shopping group?
Most likely we'll put it all out on that day of the second group. Yes, sir. Again, depending on the quantities, I don't expect to get large quantities in for a while. Again, as we both mentioned, the production from the plants that actually produce these items is having a hard time keeping up with the demand worldwide. So I don't see any pallet quantities type coming in the near future. However, our buyers in Dallas and our buyers in Europe are diligently working sources to get additional product, but we most likely won't get large pallets of quantities in of the key items such as hand sanitizer and hand wipes.
What about anything different from your perspective?
Yeah, we at the commissaries are pretty much faced with the same situation. And like what I was just saying before, is a lot of these supplies are going to your medical facilities. So once our buyers go in, they put it on the water, okay, they're coming in. Some folks may come in from the clinic, they may need something, or somebody else. But we are doing our best to get those products in the country and try to meet the demand. That's the best we can do.
And sir, a few of these are policy related. Janae asks, will the Garrison instruct Vectress to stop performing non-emergency work orders?
Janae, short answer is no. I need them to do those non-emergency work orders. We need to be able to continue to maintain our facilities, because the moment we stop, they start to crumble. And we've already suffered from lots of deferred maintenance. And so given that I don't know how long this is going to last, we're working to find a way to do this, to do maintenance, to do the things we used to do that was routine, in this new environment. And so I don't want to send a technician into a house that has somebody that may be sick. And so that's why I ask people to put some sort of sign on their door that says, hey, we're in self-isolation, we're in self-quarantine. I'm asking that you do that so that I don't have a technician that goes and gets sick and I no longer have a plumber, I no longer have an electrician. But you may make a decision that, hey, I don't need, that light fixture fixed right now. It may be something where we implement a process where you can take a picture of that fixture and send it to Vector so they can order the part. And we can have that ready to go whenever the time allows us to get back into the house and do those kind of repairs. So at a minimum, I'm asking people to keep a tally of things that require maintenance, especially if you can't get somebody in to fix those things. But got to be able to fix things that are emergency work orders, and all of those things that are priority 2 and priority 3. If we don't address them sooner rather than later, then they may also become emergency work orders. So no, I'm not going to stop them from doing their work. I need them to be looking at HVACs and other things right now so that when we need them in the heat of the summer, they're there. So good question. Thanks.
Sir, regarding the screeners at the gates and outside our facilities, why are the service members at the gate still necessary? The people seem to know where to go and how far to stand apart.
So every day there's at least 3 people that don't know the answers to those questions. And I'm focused on those outliers. And so yes, if you're like me, you've heard those questions, and in some cases 3 or 4 times a day. And you should be able to rattle off the answers. There are people that aren't able to rattle off the answers. There are people that don't know the 5 symptoms that they should be self-assessing for every day. That's the person that I'm looking for with the screeners. That's the person I'm trying to catch at the gate. That's the person that I'm trying to catch at the entrance to a key service, a critical facility that we have to keep open. Because all it takes is one of those individuals, and I've lost the staff. I've lost whoever was in there, and I may not even be able to figure out who was in the service at the time, and the virus continues to spread. It's just one of the many measures that we have in place to enable this community to set the terms as to how we fight an adversary that we can't see, that we can't detect. And so the screeners are going to stay in place. They're going to be at our gates. They're going to be at the entrances to our critical facilities. They're going to ask the questions. I don't care if you get bored with the answers or the questions you're getting asked. I'm asking you to be kind. I'm asking you to understand. I'm looking forward to the day when it's no longer necessary. But that's not tomorrow. That's probably not next week. I don't know when that's going to be.
Sir, a few questions about PCS once this is finally over.
Yep.
Daniel asks, will there be an increase in staff to support the PCS increase? Ray asks, what's the support plan for the PCS backlog? And Gloria asks, can those who've shipped household goods and vehicles get pre-cleared and receive clearing papers in preparation for the lifting of the travel ban?
Yeah, so those are all great questions. They're questions that, just as you've asked us, we're asking up. And the reality is we recognize we need more staff, and of course everyone's going to need that same kind of staff augmentation. So we're trying to figure out how we, within the team that we have here, within the people in the community, how we augment that capability. Some of it may be fairly simple. We may be able to start, if you know you're leaving, we may be able to start doing some of that process now. And so it's just a matter of putting a date on documents rather than waiting to generate the documents and put, schedule a pack out or schedule a move. So there's things that we're trying to do as far in advance as possible, so that when we get the lift, we can as quickly as possible get people in, get people out, do the maintenance between people that live in our Army family housing, so that somebody that shows up and doesn't immediately have to deal with a whole bunch of work orders. Those are all things we're talking about. How do we do those better? Because we recognize we're going to have to do what we generally do over a 5-month period, over a 6-month period, probably in 2 or 3 if we're lucky. And so is it going to be pretty? I don't think so. But I want to be best positioned so that we don't continue to blame COVID, and we actually have processes in place that make it as smooth as possible.
Another quick question for Mike. Mary asks, when will we be able to collect dry cleaning on Kelly Barracks? Dropped off cleaning several weeks ago at the Express, and it's still not back.
Yes, Mary, I saw that question earlier today, but I have not been able to get a hold of our concession to find out when that will be possible. As soon as I do find out when that's possible, I will reach out to you, and it will be provided on the Garrison App.
And two quick questions, sir, more regarding policy. How can we stop kids who are not siblings from playing with one another and practice social distancing? I see many children playing with one another. These are on-post risks.
So I've seen the same thing. I've driven around through housing areas. You know, I'm not able to tell a brother from a sister whether they belong to each other or not. The reality is that I need parents to do parent things. I don't want to have to put MPs out there to patrol and keep, maintaining social distance between kids. Kids don't keep 6 foot of separation between each other. So there's a supervision element as kids are outside. And I know that's a challenge. I want people to be outside. And I realize that in our housing areas, there's not a lot of space. Every one of our installations is very, very small. And so I need parents to do parent things. I need adults to do adult things. And so older kids, they need to know the rules. They need to understand the why behind it. The younger kids, that may not be helpful. But I see it. I know you see it. Ask the question. Do it in a way that you would want done to your children. I think that's probably the best advice I can offer there. But the reality is we want to make sure we protect our community from this virus. And kids, they spread all kinds of things.
And sir, we've got a lot of questions coming in. We'll have to get to some of those offline. Our final live question tonight is from Aaron. Do you plan to mirror Germany as far as when restrictions are lifted?
Aaron, I think as much as possible, we're going to try and mirror what's happening with our host nation partners. We're very much focused on our case count, our curve, but we're affected by hundreds and thousands of curves everywhere else. And so if there's a country that's within driving distance, within vacationing distance for our community, that's got to be part of the calculus that we look at here. And so because we have put things in place that affect this problem in a way that's useful for us, we've got to make sure that we don't find a way to let the virus back in. If we're successful in keeping it out, then we've got to be vigilant. We've got to beat back complacency. We've got to do the things that protect this community. Make sure that no matter what, the things that this community relies on, that we as a garrison, that we provide to this community are available. And so I'm going to be more cautious than not. Again, I have to follow the rules that our host nation puts in place, but we may be more stringent than what you see outside in the community. And so I want to say thanks for everyone that put in questions tonight. I want to say thanks to Michael and Scott for being here tonight and helping me answer some of the questions. I know you and your teams have been on the front lines of this, and you're focused on providing this community the things that they need. And I appreciate everyone out there that is working hard to make sure that this concept that we put in place, that it works for us. It adapts to meet our needs. And I appreciate all the ideas. I appreciate the harshest criticism because it creates the opportunity for us to look and see how we might be able to do it better. We've got Easter coming up. Again, Easter Bunny has access. I want to make sure that and the exchange and the commissary, they have things to make sure that the other Easter activities are ready to go. We will have stores open on Easter. We will have stores open on the German federal holidays where they won't be open off. So if you're willing to brave those lines on those days, and there will be lines, then understand. So appreciate the community support. I know there's a lot of questions. We'll continue to answer those as we get them. As things change, as things evolve, whether it's a message on Facebook, a video, another virtual town hall, we will continue to keep the communities up to date as possible. When I know something, I'll work hard to make sure that you know it soon thereafter. So thank you. Have a good night.